about the place and the people I served with you.
There is not much argument from the other soldiers in E Company. From Wild Bill Garnier to Don Malarkey, the combat brought us together, and is the reason for the relationships many of us still hold close today. But before we jumped into the fight, there was training, and for the original paratroopers of the 506th, that meant Camp Taccoa, Georgia, Currahee Mountain, and Captain Herbert Sobel, the Black Swan as he was known to his men. Sobel was as mean as a grizzly bear with a toothache, and as predictable as the stock market. We all thought that if Sobel ever did lead us into battle, there was better than a 50-50 chance he would have been shot by one of his own soldiers.
I never did get along with Sobel. I didn't understand him. I was in conflict with him almost all the time. But a lot of the guys say Sobel made E Company, and I agree with that.
If it hadn't been for Sobel, we wouldn't have been here. He trained the heck out of us. They didn't like him. They got rid of him, but Sobel made us.
An excellent training officer. Didn't know just a whole lot about combat. Every time we had maneuvers, he screwed everything up. Period. He didn't know what the hell to do.
He was a drill instructor. I mean, very few men enjoy their drill instructor.
The physical training in Taccoa was intense for the 132 enlisted men and the 8 officers who made up the company. Men like Sav Matheson, Gordy Carson, Tommy Burgess, Chuck Grant, William Dukeman, Al Mampry, and Paul Rogers were preparing for the mission ahead of them. Colonel Robert Sink was the commander of the 506th. Sobel reported to Colonel Robert Strayer, who reported to Sink.
It started in Taccoa, Georgia, and that's where we got our training.
They had a lot of physical exercise, and nighttime marches and things like that.
Maybe 15, 20 miles a day.
Real rigorous training there in Taccoa, and a lot of people couldn't make it.
It was rugged, but it was worth it.
And at the end of that period in Taccoa, we had to go for parachute training.
To get your wage, you had to jump five times.
There's definitely something about being there from the start. And yet, a man like Earl McClung was not a Taccoa man. He joined a little bit later, and he was accepted very well. He's definitely one of the stalwart men of the group. Buck Compton as well. He didn't join until England, and yet he was very much accepted by the men.
The story of the men of Easy Company, 506 Parachute Infantry Regiment, 101st Airborne, debuted in print in 1992. In reality, the author of the book could have focused on a company, a regiment, and any division in Europe. It just so happened that he and his team came across us, a group of rowdy paratroopers. Oh, and we could get rowdy.
And we walked in, went to the concierge and said, you have a group here from the 101st Airborne having a reunion. Where might we find them? And it was really the first funny thing that happened that day, because the concierge looked at me and said, I don't know who they are, but they're mighty loud.
I was having dinner with my wife, and she said, there's somebody on the phone who wants to talk to you. His name is Ambrose. And I talked to him, and I said, this was 50 years after the war. I said, I really don't remember an awful lot about what went on, but I'll give it a go. And I did, and I'm glad I did. It all came back to me. It took a while, but it did.
The book would become a television miniseries that began filming in the spring of 2000, debuting to critical acclaim in September the following year. For the Hollywood actors chosen for the miniseries, it would prove to